about the Applied Linguistics Group and its author. Applied Linguistics Group uploaded this video. This group is for helping students of BS, MS, MPhil, and PhD in English Linguistics, Applied Linguistics TEFL, and TESOL. Also, for the students of English Literature. This group also helps TOEFL and IELTS students with video guides. Dr. Khalid Malik is the founder of Applied Linguistics Group's https://youtube.com/@1966 Pakistani. Dr. Khalid Malik has a PhD in Applied Linguistics TESOL. He published more than 25 research papers. He taught a lot of foreign universities with vast English teaching experience. Now, at present, he is teaching in a foreign university and also at the same time admitted to a postdoctoral study project in another foreign university on the topic of language variations. Interested students in BS, MS, MPhil, or PhD in English Linguistics, Applied Linguistics, TESOL, IELTS, or English Literature students can join his YouTube Applied Linguistics group for a free education guide. Help others easily find Applied Linguistics group by copying or downloading a QR code. Anyone who scans the QR code will see the group's About page and can ask to join. Literal translations. What is literal translation? Literal translation is a term used to describe a word-for-word translation that sticks too close to the source text. It is a translation that sounds unnatural in the target language, is usually hard to read and does not convey the meaning of the original text. Knowing how to avoid literal translations will help boost the overall quality of your translation, ensuring the message conveyed by the original text is communicated to the audience in the target language. In this guide, we'll teach you how to spot literal translation and how to avoid it, creating a more natural, easy-to-read translation. Why avoid literal translation? When customers receive their translation, they use only the translated text. The #1 reason that customers reject a translation is because it sounds awkward, unnatural or stiff in the target language. All of these are telltale signs of literal translation. Remember that, in most cases, the audience reading your translation will be monolingual in the target language. Unlike the translator, they will not be looking at the source to help them understand the meaning of the translated text. Literal translations are not only hard to read, but also hard to understand. A translation that sticks too close to the source loses the intended message of the original text. Follow these steps for a natural translation. Avoiding literal translation will help your text sound natural in the target language. The ability to provide a natural translation is the sign of a skilled translator. Making these steps a part of your regular translation workflow will ensure an easy-to-read, natural translation. Step 1. Make sure your punctuation and sentence structure does not copy the source one-to-one. Step 2. Read the translation aloud to yourself. Step 3. Take your eyes away from the screen for a few minutes. Come back and read only the target to check for how natural it sounds. But shouldn't a translation follow the source? Now read the natural translations of the previous examples and see what has changed. What is the difference between these translations and the ones shown previously? Example 1. My family has always been used to drinking these products, due to their high quality and the very wholesome nutrients they contain. Example 2. Pretty antique Chanel clip-on earrings with imitation pearls. Accurate and natural translations have the following characteristics. Readability. Original meaning. Sounds natural. Not word for word. Like with all good things, balance is important. A translation must be two things. An accurate representation of the original text. A natural and grammatically correct text in the target language. Being accurate in a translation means accurately conveying the message of the source, not the order of the written words or sentences. The target text must read as if it was written in the target language, so feel free to move sentences around and change word order to achieve a natural flow. Wrap up. Main takeaways. 1. Literal translation is a translation that follows the source text too closely. 2. How to avoid. Proofread just the target text before submission. 3. Accuracy and flow. A translation should be accurate and flow naturally in the target. Always aim to reorder sentences and don't stick to the word order of the original. What do we mean by literal translation? A literal, or to the letter, translation is a translation technique that seeks to produce a translation that is as close to the original text as possible. There is little or no room for interpretation by translators using this technique. Every aspect of the source text must be replicated to keep the meaning, tone of voice, and communicative purpose of the original content the same. How to create a literal translation. When applying this approach, translators pick from several dictionary terms and opt for the one that is most appropriate to the context at hand. In fact, the accuracy of terminology is key to this type of translation. Ideally, translators should seek to replace every single word in the source language with a corresponding term in the target language. Translators wanting to produce a good translation will need to use terms that are appropriate to the time period in which the text was originally written. They will also need to refer to previous texts to better understand the meaning of a term that could be open to different interpretations, producing different translations as a result. The difference between literal and free translations. If literal translations are essentially reconstructions of a source text in a target language, free translation uses an entirely different approach. The latter aims to convey the intent and nuance of a source text, in addition to its strictly literal meaning. For this reason, free translations can become quite detached from the original text. Translators choosing this approach might opt to use equivalent expressions in their target language, even if they don't strictly align with the source text's literal meaning. A typical example would be translating the English idiom, "It's raining cats and dogs," which is an expression used to describe heavy rain. A professional translator working from English to Italian would most likely translate the idiom as piove cat nel, which literally means it's raining in basins. When to use literal and free translation approaches. Literal translation should be used in technical and scientific fields, where it is essential to ensure that terms correspond perfectly in the original and translated versions of a text. Professionals translating news-related texts should opt for a literal translation approach, as well as when translating official documents, such as legal texts, trade contracts, instruction manuals, and so forth. Free translation, on the other hand, is more suited to literary and poetic contexts, where the message's effectiveness is linked to the text's musicality and the feelings it evokes. Advertising and marketing translations tend to do better with a free translation approach to ensure they are as persuasive as possible, respecting the cultural references and specificities of the target language. Looking at any type of copy that has been translated and translating it back can appear to be confusing to some. A long time ago, the means to confirm if a translation was done correctly was to do a back translation. Meaning you would translate the document from English to French, for example, and then again translate it from French to English. Well, this is not an accurate method to confirm accuracy, but that is another subject for another day. Without knowledge of how translation actually works, it can be hard to understand why the translation should almost never be word per word. Let's explore the difference between a literal translation and one that is not. What is literal translation? The best way to describe a literal translation is exactly that. It's literal because it's word for word. This means that when the copy is translated, it is done so word for word in the same order as the original text. The problem. Unless we are translating formulas, which then the translation has to be literal, Languages from one to another do not follow the same grammar and sentence structure, so translation should almost never be literal. When it is, it sounds and it is wrong. What should be a proper translation? A good translation is when the reader does not know it was a translation. When the reader feels it was written for them. It is what every reader deserves. This is how every business letter should be translated. This is how books are translated, website content, etc. A proper translation does not translate the text word for word. Instead, the correct sentence structure, grammar is used in each sentence, paragraphs, to provide correct translation, taking into account the intended meaning, the audience and subject, to ensure that the translations is accurate. When to use literal or proper translation? The answer is simple. When literal translation breaks down the true meaning and intention of the copy or the language rules are broken, it should not be used. It is good practice to always use proper translation with a professional translator to get the best quality possible. At Language Marketplace we always ensure our translations are written for each reader, audience, to the accuracy and well-written text. About the Applied Linguistics Group and its author. Applied Linguistics Group uploaded this video. This group is for helping students of BS, MS, MPhil, and PhD in English Linguistics, Applied Linguistics TEFL, and TESOL. Also, for the students of English Literature. This group also helps TOEFL and IELTS students with video guides. Dr. Khalid Malik is the founder of Applied Linguistics Group's https://youtube.com/@1966 Pakistani. Dr. Khalid Malik has a PhD in Applied Linguistics TESOL. He published more than 25 research papers. He taught a lot of foreign universities with vast English teaching experience. Now, at present, he is teaching in a foreign university and also at the same time admitted to a postdoctoral study project in another foreign university on the topic of language variations. Interested students in BS, MS, MPhil, or PhD in English Linguistics, Applied Linguistics, TESOL, IELTS, or English Literature students can join his YouTube Applied Linguistics group for a free education guide. Help others easily find Applied Linguistics group by copying or downloading a QR code. Anyone who scans the QR code will see the group's About page and can ask to join.